Enjoy the video or these kitties will haunt you. Lawyers of Reddit, what is a detail that your client failed to bring up to you that completely lost you the case? A friend of mine is a lawyer, and he said that a client once turned up to court in the actual same outfit he was wearing in the burglary. When the CCTV footage come up in evidence, the client looked down to himself and was like, "Ooh, shut. Your Honor, I'd like to plead coincidence. I knew today wouldn't be a good day to wear my lucky ski mask. Your Honor, I can guarantee you the man on the screen is not me, but he definitely has impeccable taste in fashion." Unfair dismissal case. The client claimed to have been dismissed without reason or following procedure. After we had started the case, it comes out that not only was he given 3 written warnings, but he was also called in for a disciplinary hearing before his dismissal. Don't lie to your lawyer. Similar to a doctor, I feel like not telling your lawyer everything can just hurt you. The only reason I can see anyone having a valid reason for lying to a doctor is if they have someone in the room, the patient, who they can't tell the truth to. For example, sex. If I was at the doctor's with my family present, any one of them, and a doctor asked me, I'd say no. Not because I want to lie, but because my family are extreme Christians and sex before marriage is the worst thing to them. Thankfully I can drive, and am extremely unlikely to ever be in this situation. I once got asked if I was sexually active in front of my mom. She was sitting behind me, so I shook my head, but whipped my eyes up and down. She just nodded and said I see, and checked the box. Lucky it was on the screen also facing away from my mom. Not a lawyer yet, but I clerked for a DA's office throughout law school. Obviously we don't have clients, but I'll never forget this kidnapping case I worked on. It involved 2 Asian male defendants who were both the same age and looked relatively similar. Witness is on the stand and is asked to identify where the defendant who pushed a newsie into his face is seated. It's clear the witness is having trouble differentiating the defendants. In a true moment of brilliance, one defendant raises his ducking hand and basically points to himself like, "Right here, bud." Hands down the dumbest shut I'd ever seen. I thought his defense attorney was going to have a brain aneurysm. That he filmed his offenses for his YouTube channel. The cops didn't even know. A witness brought it up on day 3 of a trial. It was a nice quick change of plea that afternoon. So you're saying it's just a prank, bro? Isn't a valid legal defense? Not since pranks TV. Bro, in 1986. I'll never understand why people record any type of potential illegal act, much less post it on social media. I'm still a law student and this happened during my first internship at a court. A girl among other people was charged with drug possession, but because she had thrown away the drugs and the police couldn't prove that she bought or owned the drugs, BC it could have been one of the other people as well who still had drugs on them. The judge ruled in dubio pro reo. He then asked if she wants to say/add something, and this girl asked if she can get her drugs back. The defense attorney looked like he was about to get a heart attack. I really don't want to believe anyone is that stupid. Sadly, yes. I've heard of people calling the police for getting ripped off in their meth purchase. Retired cop, I've worked those calls. They do happen, and it's not a one-off thing. When someone is extremely angry, knows exactly who ripped them off, but are real dodgy about what they sold the person/tried to buy, it's real clear. Others just flat out tell you, man, I know I shouldn't have been buying crack, but he ripped me off. It was a typical appointment/interview with the immigration committee in order to grant my client a residence permit. He was marrying a woman in my country with my country's nationality, and this is a legitimate reason to be granted a residence permit. So it was a typical procedure. At least that's what I thought. The committee is bored to death and we all want to be over with it, so they asked him all typical and boring questions, like how did they meet, where they live, etc. They ask these things to identify white/false marriages. At some point they ask him if he was married before, and he says yes, back in my home country, and I'm still married actually, never got a divorce. WTF. I was stunned. Double marriage is forbidden in my country, and he never bothered to mention this detail to me, neither to the other lawyer, when we asked him. He later told me he said the truth because he was afraid to lie in front of a committee. An honest and stupid man. I got all my money though, yet we had to find another way to gain a residence permit. I'm actually a lawyer, but I was only watching this trial, not participating. So the case was that woman A had hit woman B in the head with a heavy beer pint at a bar, and woman B got pretty serious injuries. The defense claimed that woman A had not hit anyone with the pint, but instead had just thrown the pint into a random direction, and it happened to hit B in the head. Thus it was an accident, and not a battery. Well, the prosecution had a CCTV tape from the bar, and it was shown at the trial. And the tape clearly showed in HD as A walked behind B and smashed the pint to her head so hard that the pint shattered on impact. I looked at the defense lawyer and his jaw literally almost hit the table. The prosecutor also noticed this and asked something along thrown A, and the defense lawyer said that due to technical difficulties he couldn't get the CCTV tape open on his computer when he was reviewing the evidence. Woman A was found guilty. So yeah, I was completely dumbfounded. Client in family law matter lied to me about using meth. Then used meth with the child in the room and the ex got footage of it on the nanny cam and then made excuses about why they couldn't do a drug test, then blamed me when they lost custody, despite the fact that they didn't show up to appointments or return my calls, so I couldn't prepare any court material. I dumped the client after that and left family law. A defendant was written a cell phone ticket while driving and defended himself. Your Honor, I was not using a smartphone while driving. I was actually using a flip phone. Guilty. So as a technicality, if it's stated on the ticket that he was using a smartphone and he was able to prove he didn't own a smartphone without saying he was using one at the time, would that get him off? Likely not. People like to think that typos or glitches on a ticket mean they get off, but the justice system doesn't work that way. The court is asking, the law says, don't do X, did you do X? The fact that the ticket might say something incorrect could make it harder to prove you did X, but it's not that hard to say oops in a hurry after the stop, I wrote that detail down wrong, but I can still swear under oath they definitely did X. I'm a public defender in an area with lots of meth use. Meth makes most people talk a lot. So I can't tell you how many clients forget to mention that they got to the jail still high and called their mom/girlfriend/buddy on the recorded jail phone and not only confessed to the crime but also brainstormed whatever alibi or version of events I'm relying on to defend them. I was in court once for a school journalism project and there was a woman in court who had been arrested for weed and crack possession when she came to bail out her boyfriend from a separate arrest. Apparently he called her from jail and told her to come bail her out and to bring some weed and crack. The guard overheard him and it was recorded on the jail phone, so they arrested her when she showed up. Cases are paralegal. Negligence case. Client argued that a lack of street lights and a cyclist he couldn't see was responsible for him hitting a wire pole. Upon discovery, the first respondent's report indicated that they found the driver in the driver's seat, pants down, with porn playing on the phone. Wasn't difficult to figure out who was negligent at that point. Your Honor, if the cable repairman had simply fixed the cable in accordance with professional standard practices, my client would have had no other recourse but to keep his ostrich in the corral on the evening in question. Not a lawyer, law student, and not exactly what you asked for, but I feel like it fits here anyways. We read about a criminal case in which there wasn't enough evidence to convict the suspect, so the suspect was not guilty due to reasonable doubt, and he responded, "Thank you, judge. I'll never do it again." DA went into appeal and Jude got convicted. I had a cop search my dorm room because the aras smelled marijuana. I had just rolled a joint and had it in my shirt pocket. That's what they smelled. The cop searched lightly around the room, but found nothing, and I played dumb. As they were leaving I was so relieved that I didn't get busted. I said, "Thanks officer, it won't happen again." They all paused and raised an eyebrow, but I said it so happy and confidently they just left. I'm a court-appointed attorney for qualifying individuals in family matters. Termination of parental rights case. Have been fighting to argue that parent is stable, working lawfully, has a suitable apartment, doesn't need psychotropic meds anymore, ready to be a parent, etc. After a few months of negotiating with all the parties and Department of Children, Court Services, we have a pre-trial to try and convince guardians. I meet with my client before the hearing to see if anything changed. Nope, all good, let's get my kids. Great, that's not happening today, but let's try. We get going in court. My client, who is super hot-headed and quick to anger, gets riled up and goes off on the guardians, screaming in open court. It doesn't end there, but reveals 1. That no longer is working. 2. No longer in apartment. 3. Doesn't want to have a relationship with guardians despite her kids loving them. 4. Won't send her kids pictures of the toys they miss and can't have. 5. Plans on moving out of state. 6. Thinks they can live as a family off of state aid when she gets them back and is 4 months pregnant. All in the matter of 15 seconds. I was too shocked to even react. Speechless. Not the image of stability and parental fitness I've been trying to paint since last July. Not my client, but the son of the opposing party, and presumably the party himself, lied about being blind to make himself seem more sympathetic as a witness. We didn't know either until he took the witness box. Their counsel asked him to take the oath, and he picked the card up and read it. That was the cherry on top of a series of ridiculous events. The judge dismissed the whole thing in our client's favor shortly after. I was a trainee at the time, but my boss, who was in her late 60s then, said it was the most ridiculous case she'd ever handled. Had a woman with an expensive fur coat and she claimed that the laundry ruined it. It was kinda ruined, but the laundry claimed those stains were already there. Judge ordered an expert opinion, lab, and the fur coat had traces of cocaine and other illegal drugs all over it. There was a raid at her place then, and her husband got convicted because they found several kilograms of drugs. I was involved in a hit and run car accident. My leg was pretty mangled. However, the driver of the car was caught. Turns out he was a rich kid who was driving his mum's convertible Pork. Denied all knowledge of hitting me, etc. At the trial, the prosecutor asked him how long he had been driving, to which he answered, "Do you mean how long have I been driving legally or illegally?" The judge then went nuts asking why, and when he had been driving illegally. His defense team sat down in their chairs and shook their heads. Needless to say, he lost the case. Interestingly, he died a year later by drowning. He had hired speedboat and holiday, flipped it over and drowned. Turns out he was drunk at the time. Karma can be a cunt.